part 71 of Don't Say Schwarzenegger. We're going to be finishing up Alberto Driz's testimony, and then I'm going to go over the jury instructions and special verdict forms, but that's not the end of the trial. We still have more witnesses. Just going in chronological order. Okay, so remember, they're representing themselves because they're broke and indigent. So Maurice Driz cross-examines his twin brother Alberto, and he kind of starts off doing some weird immature petty sibling thing. These are men that are like at this point 66 years old, and like the emotional maturity is just off the charts for them. But he asks what Alberto's weight is, and Alberto says, I'm 180 pounds, and Maurice goes, I'm 155. Next, while he's cross-examining him, Alberto actually says the words came out of his face and onto a transcript, and he said that he's never been convicted in a physical fight. I can name one conviction, and I think 50,000 followers here on TikTok could maybe name one too, so. And then Maurice says, do you think we look identical? Because I don't. They're identical. Now, remember, the twins were both found liable when they owned Blaze Pizza and everything for schmexual battery of an underage girl. $500,000 was awarded to her. You can Google it. It's out there. Maurice tries to say that that lawsuit is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It kind of does, because it shows your character. It shows how you treat other human beings. It shows how you treat underage girls. And now here's an important thing. At this point, Alberto says the whole fight at the Nice Guy Valet started, and TMZ, Jacob Castillon, was all by himself. So this is the beginning of the new narrative, despite going against everything said at the criminal prelim, despite the police report, and despite every single deposition of every single person that was subpoenaed. They all said the large group was out there and jumped the two paparazzis. And then all of a sudden we get here 6 years later, and now it was just two lonely, like innocent old men at the valet just being normal Joes. And TMZ, tried to mess with them and tried to beat up these old men. And then all of a sudden his son, his family, his lovely son comes outside after a heavy night of drinking, sees his father being attacked, and he's just a senior citizen and he must save him. This was the whole new narrative, and they start it now. Oh, I didn't realize I'd have enough time. We have a lot of time. So I'm going to also go start into Shawn Driz going onto the witness stand, and oh my goodness, the lies, the perjury, and the immediate receipts that were provided to catch him. Like the jury must have it must have been mind-blowing to see such disrespect of the courtroom, of them, of everything, because like they hadn't dealt with these guys yet. So it was interesting watching all their reactions to all of this. So we'll start off. So Shawn Driz gets on the stand. He's under oath, and first thing he says, he was asked about it, and he says, I've never been to World Cup games, ever. Nope. So our attorney pulls up Shawn Driz's 2018 deposition, and it says, he reads it to the courtroom, and it says, what do you do with your father and your uncle, Maurice and Alberto, like when you hang out? And he said, basketball games and World Cups. And they said, did you go in person? And in the transcript, he said, we went to several. So Shawn then says that the video and the transcripts are wrong. So at this point, we didn't have enough time in the court day for him to continue his testimony, so I'm going to continue that in another part. But we are now at the next day, which is Tuesday, July 20th. And this is where the plaintiffs don't have to be in court. The jury didn't have to be in court. This was just attorneys, so the defendants, our attorneys, and the judge. And they had to go over the jury instructions and special verdict forms to prepare for the end of the trial, which is coming up in about 9 days. Now, this is important about how long their probation has been, felony probation, because I had to deal with something that I got the green light from the judge during this trial. I had to handle something about him violating his probation. And at the end of the trial, the judge was suddenly removed. I was told she asked to be removed. I went and asked directly her courtroom, her clerk. I was told no, under no circumstances would she ask to be removed from your case. She was invested. She was removed from the case when I tried to deal with the probationary stuff, the violations with Shawn. So that'll come up in a couple parts from now, a few parts. So during this private hearing, which somebody I know attended, so they were a witness, and I have the transcripts or whatever, the judge says to the attorney defendants, she says, okay, so all three Drizes violated felony probation. And Alberto goes, yeah, but it's done this week. And she goes, no, it's not. it isn't over until September, which is about August, September, about 2-ish months from now after the trial's over. So you still are on felony probation. The judge notices illegal probation changes in these documents she's looking at because she's not an idiot and she's not corrupt. So she's noticing, but she doesn't have all the information. She's noticing that there had been secret court dates. She didn't know they were secret. She didn't know that. I wish I had been there to tell her this. I wish my attorneys had mentioned to her. But she notices the probation changes from the white powder and the pew-pew bust that happened at all of their homes. The judge asks, why would a violation probation make your probation years go down? I don't understand this. It doesn't make sense. That was Judge Keith Schwartz and Judge Catherine Mater, the two judges that were brought in by somebody, don't say their name, it's not in my title, brought in by somebody who completely ignored the law and rewarded them for being found with a pew-pew and white powder and a duffel bag of greens that were illegal for them to have while on felony probation. At this point, Shawn's bored and he's like, can I leave? And the judge says, I get you and I get it, but you're not going to mess with this. So Shawn asks to leave again. He's so over it and she just goes, fine, yeah, like get out. Then the other Driz leaves and she has to go. The judge says, let the record reflect both Drizzes have left the courtroom. At this point, my attorney floated the idea to her of transferred intent, which is if the defendants actually thought I was an animal, it would be a lesser crime and a lesser monetary civil judgment. And so the judge thankfully slapped that down and she said, that's intent. There wasn't a mistake. There wasn't an accident. This was all intentional, end quote. Thank God the judge she just knew the laws. She knew precedents. She knew our case back forward, everything. She was so prepared. Thank God, because there's moments when I wasn't there or I wasn't physically there or I wasn't mentally there. I was zoning out and I read the transcripts and we're so grateful for Judge Susan Bryant Deason. Okay, let's go to the next part.